Welcome to another episode of Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name's Clifton, and I'll be your host on this very bumpy ride today. And joining me is a man who has probably driven a car before.
Yeah, I'm Jay. Thanks, Clifton.
Jay, right. It's Jay. Oops. Last time I forgot my name, and this time I forgot your name. This is not going well.
This is going to be an adventure.
Jay, what are we listening to?
Well, we had a bit of change of plans for this episode, so we are listening/watching, even though I know you listener will only be able to hear it, the video for Carman, A Witch's Invitation.
Yes, but you can watch along with us, and we're going to give timestamps for when we pause stuff. So if you want to watch along with us on YouTube, feel free to do that. Why are we doing this, Jay?
Well, we had a great episode planned about Joe Christmas, which we're still going to do.
And we're still going to do it, yeah.
But we had to have a change of plan at the last second. Our guest host could not make it. But Clifton and
these episodes might come out in the right order, so this might be a whole weird thing to
Yeah, that's true, and we can delete this later. But Clifton and I are dedicated, and we wanted to get something out, and we've been wanting to go back and look at the artist that is Carman, and just talk about some of his videos. I feel like if you've ever experienced Carman, you had to have seen the videos as well. This is one of those, like, you kind of have to have the whole package.
Yes, true. And we're not doing an album because A, we didn't have enough time because this is a backup plan. And B, can you imagine listening to the whole Carman album? Like,
no.
I would just, I would quit the show.
It's too much.
Yeah. There would just no longer be a show if we had to do that. Yeah. We would put it off indefinitely. Jay, how were you introduced? Just not to this, but just to Carman in general.
You know, I was trying to think about that before I came on. I don't remember exactly, but it was definitely that age that I feel like is really like the Carman age. I was probably like 11. You know, like 11, 12, like kind of that 5th to 6th grade transition where you've learned about Carman, you really think he's cool, and you haven't realized yet that, like, he's totally not. And so somehow that time period I got introduced, and Carman was definitely one that was like parent friendly. So I feel like we could listen to his cassette tapes in the car as a family sometime. So that was kind of another way I guess I got introduced to him. I definitely remember listening to it with my parents, which is weird because most of the stuff we cover, definitely not. This is one that it was.
How old did you say you were?
I feel like I was like about 11, like 5th to 6th grade, 11 to 12, that kind of age.
Okay. Then I'm going to feel embarrassed here because I found it, I think, the summer of like the first junior high camp.
Well, that's fair. So wait, pre-junior high or like after your first year?
I don't know, because I'm trying to think about it, and I think we went to a camp. I think we were like allowed to go to a camp before we actually started in the youth group, because the youth group was just junior high and high school. And I think we were allowed to go to a camp before, which would make me feel a lot better about myself, but I'm not sure.
Well, usually they do like a step up thing. So we're going to say that. I mean, and that is the age that Carman was cool. I feel like even by the end of 6th grade, a lot of kids are like,
Yeah. And my introduction was the standard, I think.
Okay.
So I would have been 12 when that came out. So I don't know what it was.
There you go. And I will say the video we're going to watch was not maybe the first introduction. It was kind of like a Carman deep cut. You know, people would like, oh, you know, Carman, have you heard Witch's Invitation? I'm like, no, what is this? Oh my God. And it was like really cool.
How did you find this deep cut in the day? Were there just VHS laying around in the back of the, like it was
the youth group? No, it was
and
definitely like on a tape first. I
Oh,
actually remember the pastor's wife talking about it at our church, which I know is kind of nuts.
should we tell people which song we're doing before we
Oh, I think I
release
already
it?
mentioned it. Sorry.
Okay, Witch's Invitation.
We're doing
Yeah,
Witch's
yeah,
Invitation, yes.
yeah.
So
It's like you listened to this without watching the video at the same time.
yeah, I definitely heard it first and then saw the video later.
Why?
Yeah, I know. Because
I
it
mean-
seemed really cool. It was like, well, the thing was, I think it is safe to say this. There wasn't anyone else doing this type of thing in
No,
Christian music at the time. Not that there needed to be any more than this,
no.
but that it was unique and different. And so that was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. Plus,
Like-
and I think we'll get into this more in just a second with it, but like, this kind of worked with the time period when it came out. Like, the theme of this song with the paranoia and the stuff, like, it just fit.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely fit in with like the satanic panic of the time, right?
Right.
Even then, it's actually a little bit late to the no, it's not a little bit late. It's actually like a lot late to the satanic panic.
Right, it is. But this is Christian
Yeah.
music, so you know.
Yeah, Christians are behind in pop culture even when it's their pop culture that they're behind in.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. But like, this is boring to watch and listen to at the same time. So I can't imagine just listening to it.
Well,
you
see,
know? And
you've actually just rewatched it. I told you in the message, I was like, I'm not
Correct.
watching it till we do this. So I honestly, this has been like 30 something years, so this is going to be interesting.
yeah. And I actually did watch this when we first started the podcast because I was trying to think of things that we could do for easier episodes every once in a while. And we're just not getting into it a year and a half later, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, there we go.
But like, there's a reason that talkie music isn't like in the top 40, you know, like, and this isn't spoken word, this is talkie music because there's no rhyme scheme, this isn't poetry, it's not spoken poetry, right? It's just talking on top of what you could call music. Like,
Yeah.
and the
true.
music isn't important.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's less important than the score of a movie.
Yeah, it's not about the music, and it's not about the way he says it. You're right. It's not poetry or spoken word. It's just like what he's saying. It's like
Yeah.
almost preaching, but delivered in a little bit different form.
More like a just a bad short story that an old guy with dyed jet black hair is reading to you,
Set to music.
set to music. Well, no, it's not even set to music. It just has music incidentally playing behind it.
I will say that Carman, and I kind of hinted at this earlier, Carman I feel like was one of those that, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I quickly realized was not cool. Like, even
Right,
while you're in middle
yes.
school, you were like, oh, we're
Oh,
like,
no.
we're like, some stuff, you know, you kind of grew out of as you kept going. Like, you know, our other artists we've even covered on here, I didn't think were as cool later, but Carman, I think, was the main one that was very quickly like an about face on my part. Just oh, yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. I just remembered this has to be some kind of thing in between 6th and 7th grade because I remember that after 7th grade year was when I found Jeff Moore in the Distance.
Yeah, see, there we go. And that,
Yeah.
as much as it sounds weird, is an upgrade from this.
It is. It's a huge upgrade. And like, even if you don't realize that Carmen isn't cool, you definitely realize that like girls are not going to respect you if you're listening to Carmen, right? Like for that sake alone, you have to abandon it.
Yeah, it's true. I can't think of any like female Carmen aside from like my pastor's wife, but I don't think that really
Sure.
counts. So yeah, huh?
Age appropriate.
Right.
Women, yeah.
Yeah.
Girls, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Let's move on.
Okay.
Are we getting preached at in this, Jay?
You know, like I said, it's been a long time, but I'm going to go with yes.
Are we getting not like? Is there a moment in this when we're not getting preached at? I guess is a better question.
Probably not. Again, I haven't listened to this till we're doing it now, which is a new one for me on this show. But I'm going to say that no, it's all preaching all the time.
Okay. All right, let's pause here and do a little patron shout out here. Remember to visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. and other things like other things and stuff. And sorry, 1 second. We actually got a new patron. I gotta look up his name.
And while he's looking, we are going to record some extra stuff for patrons. I mean, there is some extra stuff already there, but we're hoping to put out more, even maybe some little episodes like this one if this if this goes well. So, or maybe this will be a Patreon episode if it crashes. I don't know. But
all right, so last episode we dedicated the entire thing to Brock, who has since upped his pledge.
Thank you,
to
Brock.
The preacher's kid level.
Thank you.
So
what a preacher's kid. Thank you, Brock.
I know. Yes. And then we have a new listener, Chris, and I think I can say his last name because it's just Chris Smith. So, you know, and I'm even going to say from New Zealand. The pledge is in New Zealand dollars.
Thank you, Chris.
Is pledging on the #1 fan level, which is the lowest level, but everyone's our #1 fan, right?
Thank you, Chris. We do appreciate it, really. And again, while he's getting that, we're not making any money off this. It just helps pay for production and website and all that stuff. So
where did my notes go?
Thank you, guys.
So Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about Carman?
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah. I remember Addicted to Jesus, Righteous Invasion of Truth, Riot, you know, all the hits. Yeah.
What, so what album were you listening to?
Definitely Addicted to Jesus, I think, was the main one, which I know was after this.
Yeah. Featuring
Toby Mac was on it, right?
All of DC Talk.
Oh, well, see, that was like the perfect nexus for me because I was more like a New Thing, Free at Last DC Talk guy. You know, Jesus Freak was I was already moving on then. So that was prime DC Talk era for me.
Right.
I think I remember actually listening to the song a little bit and being a little like freaked out. Like, I remember some reason listening to it in the car at night and dark and just being a little like, oh my, what is this? Is this okay to listen to?
In your parents' car?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
Were your parents there?
Probably.
Like, you were driving, you weren't just sitting in the garage.
No, for some reason I remember sitting in a parking lot.
Okay.
And they were like playing it, and I don't know why, but I just remember being like, whoa, this is kind of creepy.
Very creepy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jay, tell me, as we are about to dive into this, what do you think we're about to experience?
Oh, wow. A really bad, like you said, talk music thing that is going to really kind of hammer in on the whole, like, you know, satanic panic themes that we talked about, and witches are real, and but God is greater and stronger, and yeah.
Okay. That's not wrong.
Okay.
So how we're going to do this is I found some lyrics online, which, by the way, if you just search for the lyrics of this song, it's going to give you the lyrics to something else, because I kept expecting a song to start, and they weren't anyways. I found the real lyrics. That's some hard quotes right there. I found the real lyrics to this, and they were already broken up into paragraphs. So we're just going to go through this and then pause at the end of what was a paragraph in the lyrics that I found, okay?
Okay.
And then we can go back and discuss. And if we need to rewind, I will happily do that, because there is a lot to dig into here, both visually and audioly and verbally.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. You ready to start?
Okay. Oh, yeah. So we're starting on the video. Can I just say before you hit play, you can see Carman with his sunglasses on the street, and it's clearly like the suburbs, because this house he's in front of is a big house. It's not it's not like massive mansion, but it's a big house. But
do you think that's his house?
Yeah, who knows? But clearly suburbs. Like, this is not like a haunted house looking like thing built 100 years ago. This looks like it was built in like the early 80s, late 70s type thing.
Well, this is his, in the video, this is his house.
Oh, this is his house.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the story, but he has to get invited. There's an invitation that he has to receive
Well, then
before he visits the witch.
all right. Then never mind. Maybe I'm just okay. I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Yeah, it's pretty like picturesque, suburbs though, right? I mean, there's a white picket fence.
Right. This is definitely the suburb.
Yeah. It's a lot of sloping roof and a chimney and a mailbox.
The house looks like it has
next...
3 chimneys, so it is a big house.
It is, yes. Or it could be a much older house, really.
Yeah. So, okay, fair.
Yeah. All right. Ready to hit play?
Yep.
Okay. We're going for 45 seconds.
One peaceful afternoon, I picked up from my mailbox the strangest looking letter I'd ever seen. A chilling little envelope bordered with flying bats and eerie serpents whose eyes were tinted green. Now, the letter was addressed to me, so as I opened it, I froze. What I read turned my complexion 3 shades of blue. It said my name is Isaac Horowitz. I'm a male witch, a warlock, and I feel I need to spend some time with you. Now,
it opens with him walking up to his house, and he stopped at the mailbox, and he opens it.
Which the mailbox, by the way, says Carman really big on the side.
In all lowercase letters, just Carman. Yeah. Lowercase letters, yeah. And the envelope is, as he's described it, it has some bats. It's not bordered with bats. It just has a bunch of bats and serpents that look kind of like dragons on it, and they definitely colored in the eyes green.
Drawn on one side and kind of loops sort of back. It looks really badass. If I got an envelope like that in my mailbox, I'd be like, this is awesome.
I would save that envelope if someone spent time drawing that.
Yeah,
and it was loving care.
It's super cool.
Yeah, that part, yeah, that's the coolest part so far. So far. And then he starts walking towards his house. Visually, that's all we've seen so far, but let's definitely go back over.
Wait. Okay. Are we going to... We're not going ahead yet, right?
No.
Okay. Then I'm good. You're probably going to mention what I'm going to mention, so keep going.
Yeah, so, the first thing that jumps out at me is that, he mentions that it's a peaceful afternoon, and then he goes to his mailbox, and there's an envelope with serpents and bats, that it needs to be sinister, almost like sinister, like this envelope interrupted my peaceful afternoon.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just like, how is this different? Like, I don't know about you, Jay, but I get a letter from the Jehovah's Witness down the street like once a month at least, and that doesn't count the recycling bin full of flyers and brochures and other advertisements that we get for churches that just multiply, obviously, when it comes Easter and Christmas time.
True.
But how is this different than that?
If you're getting an invitation to anything, yeah, it's most likely some type of religious service. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And not satanic one.
Right. But basically, all that's happened so far is that, he got a personalized proselytizing invitation.
Yeah, but that looks really badass.
Right, yeah. Now, I don't mean offense by this, but I think I have to say it. It's from, did we already hear? Yeah, he said, my name is Isaac Horowitz. I'm a male witch, a warlock, and I feel I need to spend some time with you. So first off, Jew.
Thank you. I was wondering when that was coming up. I was like, oh my God. Of course, I wouldn't have caught that when younger, but I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
Wow.
And it's not just the last name, a Jewish last name. It's both names. And it's not just kind of a Jewish name. It's full on Horowitz. That's you're not going to confuse that for not a Jewish name.
Wow.
It's, I'm just going to say that Carman is probably an anti-Semite from what I've seen here so far.
Yeah, it's not looking good so far.
Yeah, okay. Not to mention that there's just a long history of Christians associating, Jewish people in Europe with Satan and witches, and this just plays right into that stereotype. He just dove right into it, right? So, okay. And I also want to point out that he had to say I'm a male witch, a warlock. And I feel like the only reason he did that is because a warlock's invitation doesn't sound as cool as a witch's invitation.
But the fact that he needed to clarify that a male witch is a warlock.
Yeah. But couldn't it have been a witch? Like, they could have had a woman be a witch.
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't, since, again, we've kind of talked about this theme of, like, the women that lead the men astray and half these albums we cover, so.
And they could have really gone with, like, the big nose, with a little crook in it, and more Jewish hate crimes, but they didn't. So, okay, you ready to move on here?
Before we go on, I just want to make sure you understand. Carman is wearing like a blazer or a suit jacket and then like a white button-up shirt under it, no tie, and he's definitely got the top, 2 buttons unbuttoned? He's got some chest hair showing, like he's got that thing going on. Yeah.
He's got as much chest hair showing as I do in my shitty sit around the house shirt here.
Right.
That's also unbuttoned a little bit, just because it came unbuttoned. I didn't do that. Yeah. It's not quite Miami Vice, right? We're late 80s. We're not Miami Vice in this, but it's definitely Miami Vice inspired.
Yeah. There we go.
I think, yeah. Okay. Verse 2.
Now, as a Christian from a little church with God's call on my life, a man of faith and power with a challenge to grow, I did what any saint would do in my situation. I tore it up, said, Lord, no way I'm gonna go. Then gently and methodically, the Holy Spirit spoke and reminded me we're God's voice to our nation. It's the church's responsibility to witness. So reluctantly, I accepted this witch's invitation.
Okay.
So we just stopped there at 1 minute and 21 seconds into the video. So Jay, what do you think so far?
Again, I'm sad that he tore up the real badass letter.
Yeah.
I
think he tore up the letter, though. He didn't tear up the envelope. The letter was still pretty cool looking.
Okay.
But he didn't tear up the envelope, yeah. And he threw it in a trash can.
That just happened to be...
Like a wicker, the wicker trash can that we all keep like outside of our house.
Right, on the porch.
That
was completely empty otherwise.
Yes, near the front door. In proximity to the front door.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to... Maybe we're not there yet. I do want to talk about some of the things he said, because one thing really caught me right there.
Yeah.
But if we want to talk about anything else we saw in that...
There wasn't much else to see there.
Yeah, so...
other than at the very end there, it kind of just switched from him being in front of his house. When that thunder came in, it switched from him being in front of his house. All of a sudden, he's in front of the witch's house, and it's nighttime all of a sudden for some reason, and everything's dead.
We're still kind of up close around Carman, so I can't see much, but there's now like a wrought iron fence behind him, and I'm assuming the witch's house is also in the suburbs, just with like some cobwebs on it, but we'll see in a minute. Maybe it's something better.
Yeah.
So he said the word... Can you read the line when he says the word nation? Because that really stood out to me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So he said, then gently and methodically, the Holy Spirit spoke and reminded me we're God's voice to our nation. It's the church's responsibility to witness. So reluctantly, I accepted this witch's invitation.
So that's really interesting, because in a way he's like kind of equating nation with like witches or whatever, you know what I mean? He's drawing, like, without saying it, he's basically making a comparison of like, hey, everybody in our nation to witches or warlocks or whatever, which like honestly, I feel like that's underlying a lot of the messages that we grew up with in this Christian stuff.
True.
That now, unfortunately, we see playing out in like really fucked up, destructive ways.
But what really is quizzical to me about, like, it really made me question what's going on here, is that he didn't say we're supposed to be God's voice to this world, to this sinful world, right?
Right.
He said nation. And like world makes more sense, because that's actually how like the Gospels and Paul's letters talk, right? They talk about the world. They don't talk about a nation that we're supposed to be a witness to.
That's such a good point, but I feel like that really resonates with what I was taught growing up. There was this real focus
because
on
we were
America.
taught Christian nationalism.
Right. Yeah. And you wouldn't have called it that, and I wouldn't have seen it that way at the time, but really, like, this is a Christian nation. We're going to turn it for God, win the country for God, all this stuff. Think about See You at the Pole. Good God. All this stuff that, like, we had growing up, with the ultimate goal of, like, winning everybody to Jesus. And again, we live in 2022. We see where that leads. Not good
Right,
places.
yes.
Yeah.
We are now downstream from that, and we can watch the creeping. It's not even creeping anymore. It's just like a tank moving across a field, like a bunch of tanks in a row. Is the Christian nationalism moving towards us now?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the beginning of what he said here. He said, "Now as a Christian from a little church." I like it's a little church,
right?
Just a humble little church with God's call on my life. So he's not just a Christian and not just from a small church, but he also has God's call on his life. He's stacking up like bona fides, like Christian bona fides here, right? Because then it moves on to a man of faith and power.
Doesn't he call himself a saint too at some point?
I
feel like I heard the word saint.
Oh yeah. A man of faith and power with a challenge to grow. I did what any saint would do in my situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is just stacking up the bona fides. Like he is pouring, like he is baptizing himself. Like he just got some cups of water and just started pouring them on his head. Just like he's very humbly telling you why he's a badass.
Yeah. It's like a humble brag, which church is real good at that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So of course, then he tore up the invitation, which is what I do to the letters I get from the Jehovah's Witness, and
throw them in your wicker
brochures.
basket on your porch.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go back outside because I bring them out inside and then I go through it, and then I'm like, not this one, and I go back outside to the wicker basket. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, so I do like that his first reaction is, "Oh, proselytizing, reject."
Right, which fair, that's human. Yeah, we're all like, nope, no.
I feel I'm on the same page as you here, Carman, for this one. But it took the Holy Spirit to gently and methodically speak to him to remind him that once again we're back around to the voice of our nation.
Yep.
So now we're going to go from 1 minute and 22 seconds through 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
He had the house you'd expect. Old English cottage, a nightmare on Elm Street special right to the core. The overgrown ivy, the gate that creaked when opened. Somehow you'd expect Freddy to answer his door. The doorbell rang a hollow gong, the knob twisted then opened, and Isaac stood before me with a grin. His jet black hair and well-trimmed beard flowed with his black silk clothes. My skin crawled as he said, "Please, come on in."
All right. So I'm gonna rewind here so we can look at the visuals for this.
Okay.
Kind of, and so as Jay mentioned earlier, we start on this scene we're kind of zoomed into Carman, but then we zoom out, and Carman describes it as the house you'd expect, the old English cottage. Which I think is a pretty good. I mean, it's definitely has some Victorian elements to it here.
Yeah, Clifton, you're the architect, so you can.
Yeah, it has Victorian elements to it, so we'll allow that.
Okay.
But it also has a black wrought iron fence here with gold topped spikes gold painted spikes at the top. Unlike Carman's house, which had a nice white picket fence.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And for some reason, even though Carman's house everything was green and growing. All the trees are dead, the grass is dead, the shrubs are dead.
Oh, and it's nighttime, by the way.
And it's nighttime, yes. No stars in the sky, but nighttime.
Yeah.
Are there any cobwebs? Do you see any cobwebs there?
I mean
there's some, maybe? I don't know.
Kind of looks like there is on the side,
Yeah.
It's hinted at least, right?
Yes. But then he describes it as a Nightmare on Elm Street special, right to the core. So, Jay, do you remember the Nightmare on Elm Street house?
No, I'm going to be honest.
All right.
I don't even know if I
Good.
fully saw Nightmare on Elm Street, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, I want to show it to you.
Okay. I have a feeling
Can you
they're
see
nothing.
this?
Oh my God, they're nothing alike.
The Nightmare on Elm Street house is not an old English cottage. It's just a 2-story, it looks like a barn.
It looks like the one out of Home Alone a little bit, you know?
But less nice, more plantation style, but farm plantation. It looks like a barn.
But not at all. There's nobody would mistake them.
Right,
they're very different.
Yeah. And this is, by the way, is a picture of the house, not dressed up for the movie. Dressed up for the movie, it had boards over the windows. But that's the only difference between what we're looking at here and the one in the movie. So he goes on then to say, Nightmare on Elm Street special, right to the core. Overgrown ivy. No overgrown ivy here. Do you see overgrown ivy, Jay?
Nope.
No. The gate that creaked. I don't know if there was a gate. I don't remember if there was a gate in Nightmare on Elm Street, honestly. But who knows?
Yeah.
And the next line is, somehow you'd expect Freddy to answer the door. Now, I gotta say, he nailed that. Freddy is in Nightmare on Elm Street. Right? That was good job, Carmen. You got the right movie with the right bad guy. And for people who are always behind on pop culture...
I'm still thinking Carmen's never seen Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right, because he said that Freddy would answer the door. You know what Freddy doesn't do?
Answer doors.
Yeah, he gets you in your dreams.
Right.
Yeah, he does not answer doors. So, okay, that's fine. Whatever. From there, he walks up to the house, walks through a creaky gate that it's overgrown with ivy in the video, but dead ivy, not alive ivy. So I don't know how it got overgrown, but it is. He rings a very creepy looking doorbell, and then a man opens the door. Let me see if I can find him here. There we go.
How would you describe him, Clifton?
What's the father's name from Addams Family?
Oh, is it Gomez? Is that right?
Yeah. So if you mix him 50% Gomez and 50% Playboy, Hugh
Hefner type thing. Yeah.
Like Hugh Hefner, but Hugh Hefner in a daytime soap opera.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Actually, this guy does look like a soap opera actor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's got a mustache. He's got...
You know what he doesn't have?
What?
A well-trimmed beard.
True.
Yeah.
He's got the mustache, which Carmen, by the way, is clean shaven, which is, interesting contrast.
As all holy men are.
He's got his hair sort of, I don't know if it's slicked back, but pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, his hair...
Also, it's not black.
Yeah.
Carmen's hair, by the way, is black.
Yeah, this guy's definitely brown hair.
This guy has brown hair. Yeah.
And he's wearing a kind of robe-looking thing with like Clifton said, kind of like Hugh Hefner Playboy thing, but with a red collar type thing, but that drapes down. Like a robe, but imagine the edge of it being red, and the rest of it I think is either dark purple or black.
Yeah.
It's
definitely made of a very cheap, shiny fabric. This is not an expensive robe.
But can I just say this, so everything in this is playing on stereotypes of horror films and that stuff. Because this guy is definitely making me think Dracula too with the stuff he's wearing.
Okay.
You know?
I get that.
There's in the scene Clifton is just showing us, there's a grandfather clock behind him. I have no idea if that even plays a role, but it fits with the thing. The house is very much, and Carmen even says it in the thing, a haunted type house. It's just I don't know. I'm just scratching my head. This is the most stereotypical thing ever. The most unreal. If there were going to, not that this would ever happen, but you know what I mean? If something like this was even going to happen, it would never be like this. This is just... Right. It's just unbelievable, yeah.
I've met witches and warlocks, and they don't look like this.
Right.
They look like hippies.
Right.
They look like hippies with dreadlocks and stuff like that.
Good point. Yes.
Definitely, yeah,
exactly right. This is nobody, unless somebody's really into horror movies, does this. You know what I mean? This is
right,
just
yes.
I don't know. It's clearly someone who knows nothing about this subculture, is making something about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. This is This is like if they watched like a police training video on the Satanic Panic.
Right.
This is also how detailed that got, for example.
Yeah.
I will say that the grandfather clock does not play as big a role in this as it does in Stranger Things season 4.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
But see, it's fitting, right? Same type of thing. Yeah. So anyway.
All right. So at the end, Carman, the guy says, come in, and Carman kind of like nervously with his arms crossed, like slinks, trying to avoid touching this guy because he's kind of standing in the doorway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let's start. And then we see him as he comes into the house. Let's start back here. So we're going to go from 203 to 241 in this clip.
His house was filled with every occultic symbol you could fathom. Hanging pentagrams, horoscope signs, a Ouija board and Dungeons and Dragons games set on the table, a crystal ball with an incandescent shine. Then graciously he handed me some steaming herbal tea. Its presence caused my memory to jog. I thought of every horror flick I'd seen when I was a kid, and thought, man, you drink this stuff, next day you'll be a frog.
Okay. If you thought what we saw earlier was offensive, this is now we're really getting into it here. Okay. So as he walks in, there, you know, it's actually a nice looking place. It's a little dark, you know, but I think it's just like Victorian styled. Like, would you say that?
At this point, you're like, it's clearly a set because this room is way too big to be an entryway, like just way too open. But yeah,
and too small to be a living room or anything like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But you're right.
The one off thing is that it has an arched doorway, like a circular arched doorway,
right?
Which is weird. I don't know. It's just
you don't see that a lot.
That's not Victorian,
by
the way. So he says his house was filled with every occultic symbol you could fathom. And it shows we turn around and there's a big chair like a gold, like it's obviously a wood chair that's painted gold with like a red cushion on it.
Almost like a throne.
Yeah, like a throne, yeah. And then over above the fireplace, which is surrounded by candles, is a skull.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a pentagram next to the skull. You
looks like it, yeah. And on the wall on the left side, and we'll get a better shot of it in a second, there's like the inverted cross. There we go. And some other stuff I can't make it out.
I think those are just runes. They're just runes.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah. There's a stained glass pentagram, not window in the door, just hanging from the wall.
Actually, now that I think about it, of all the depictions of a pentagram, a stained glass one that looks really nice. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Now, I will say, this pentagram plays a bigger role than the grandfather clock does in Stranger Things season 4.
Okay. All right.
We keep moving here. Oh, and then he says, after the pentagram, he says, horoscope signs.
Yeah, the zodiac. Like,
yeah, it's just the zodiac.
Like, oh my god.
It is in a very nice frame, though.
Yeah.
Cut back to Carman, and there's a Ouija board, like literally like a Mattel Ouija board. Here.
Right.
Not a nice Ouija board, just a Mattel Ouija board, and then it pans over to just like advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, a couple of Dungeon and Dragon books with some like die on top.
Yeah,
like
some dice on them. Yeah,
it's just like it just...
You know, because Dungeons and Dragons is only played exclusively by Satanists. You know, so yeah.
But by the way, just to pause for a second, I was never, not that I really had an opportunity to, but I was never allowed to play that. I was told that it was satanic growing up. Like,
oh yes,
it was really bad news. And not the same with the horoscope, but the same idea. Like, horoscope was bad. You can't trust that. Blah 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 blah. Not as bad as Dungeons and Dragons, but still.
No, Dungeons and Dragons. Like, if you wouldn't play Dungeons and Dragons one time, like the next day you were gonna be under a bridge sacrificing cats.
Exactly.
To yeah.
It's just like, I think that's the same thing. I guarantee you all these people said that have never even opened a Dungeons and Dragons book.
Right.
It's just this like fear of the unknown, right? This
Mhm.
seems
Oh,
weird to
completely.
me. This seems odd. Okay, it must be bad. It must be evil.
Right. Same thing with the Ouija board. It's
Yeah.
just it's now the Ouija board I guess at least does like pretend to be occultic. It does
Right.
pretend to
True.
contact the dead or whatever. But Oh, and then of course there's the a little crystal ball straight out of that scene at the beginning of Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
right? And tarot cards, some tarot cards.
Yeah, I
over
think
there.
those are tarot cards. It's hard to tell, but I think next to it, yeah.
And Carman gets really up close to it. So this now he's given the guy. So he says in the lyrics that he handed me a steaming cup of herbal tea. In the video, it's clearly like just some water with some dry ice in it.
Right. It's definitely like bubbling and steaming.
It is bubbling,
Yeah.
yes. Which, of all the things that have happened so far, I think that's the most offensive. Because, like, let's say that you're a Muslim and you get invited to a church and they serve you pizza. Should you be scared that you're going to be turned into a cannibal because Christians eat the body of Christ? I just the blindfolds in which you have to have on here to even present this in a serious way is extraordinary, right? I mean, if you just remove yourself from it for half a second, like someone who wants to proselytize to you, really trying to kill you first off, like, is that what we're trying to say?
Right. Yeah, this whole thing, like, if you even take half a step back, like, you're just gonna laugh, right? But the fact that this was
Right.
even perceived as serious
Right.
at the time, it's just kind of hard to wrap your head around.
And then, he literally says, I thought back to every horror flick I saw, and I thought, man, if you drink this stuff, next day you'll be a frog.
Again, he's seen no horror movies, but
Well, maybe when he was a kid. Like,
Right.
I believe that he grew up maybe on like schlock horror back in the 50s and 60s, like
Wolfman or something, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know. It's really offensive. Yeah. And then of course when he says frog, then of course we hear the frog, ribbit.
Yeah, and after he gives him, what's the warlock's name again?
Isaac Horowitz.
Thank you. As after Isaac Horowitz gives him the tea, he backs up slowly and rubs his hands together like, ooh, I got him now.
Yes, and then Carman looks at it like he's literally terrified of it,
Yeah.
and puts it down and walks away from it, and then there's a frog
Right.
on the table for some reason, and it rivets. So we're going to go 241 to 319 here.
Next day you'll be a frog. And he led me to a high-backed chair as he meticulously began to unfold his scenario with evil patience. I was given a giant leather-bound book jammed with newspaper clippings, thus the reason for this witch's invitation. With eagerness, he pointed to each article with pride. He said, I healed this woman through a Babylonian chant. You see, this man, I cured him while performing druid worship. I was paid to curse this man with AIDS by his aunt.
Oh my god.
So this is the first time I actually want to talk about the music here, because as we go into this new clip here, we get a beat.
And he led me to a high-backed chair as he meticulously began to unfold his scenario with evil patience.
And then that organ comes in. Good job. That's the only good music in this entire thing. And it's very corny.
Okay, so Carman sits in the throne-looking chair that we talked about.
Uh-huh.
Isaac Horowitz hands him this book that kind of looks like maybe like a family album that maybe like your grandma or great grandma had. It's like a really big, old looking with like weathered looking pages type book. Like it's the size of a dictionary, if not bigger, with
Mhm.
old weather pages that clearly is like put together on more like an old photo album, and it's got like loose pages kind of sticking out the top, like you can tell stuff's been kind of stuck in and pages
Mhm.
marked and all that kind of stuff. And when he opens it, it's got a bunch of newspaper
But wait,
articles.
it is leather bound. I thought we were gonna like he was gonna be like, "Ha, you're holding human skin."
Right? No, just leather bound.
So yeah, he opens it and starts pointing to some articles that are from just cuttings from newspapers, basically that literally say like satanic ritual and all these kind of things. Where he's telling him, you know, with eagerness, he pointed to each article with pride. He said, "I healed this woman through a Babylonian chant. You see this man? I cured him while performing druid worship. I was paid to curse this man with AIDS by his aunt."
Yeah, and like that article said, like man dies of AIDS or something. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and then they flash to them in the background and a scene of the crystal ball and a little figurine of a wizard holding a crystal ball.
And by the way, so Carman's just sitting in that big, that I think you already mentioned that, Jay, that he's sitting in that big throne type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to stop for a minute on the "I was paid to curse this man with AIDS by his aunt," simply because of how, like, even in the 90s, Christians around me cheered when gay people got AIDS. Like,
yeah.
they were like, "That's what you deserve, faggot." Sorry about that. I'll go back and put a
No, but you're
a
right.
warning
That's
before that.
what they said. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet Carmen's like, "Man, this man's so evil. He cursed this man with AIDS." But like, not only did Christians cheer for many decades after this, at least 2 decades after this, when gay people got AIDS, they probably still do today. You know, there's probably still some of those people out there. But literally, on advice of the fucking moral majority, Ronald Reagan did fucking nothing during the 80s while AIDS wiped out the homosexual community. And it wasn't just he did nothing. They set up, like, it was hard to do research on AIDS at all because it was it was one of those things you couldn't do research on if you accepted money from the United States, like from the government.
Right.
So it's just yeah.
Well,
It
and the
pissed me off.
fact that like if somebody's like aunt wanted to kill them,
Yeah,
that they
there's
chose
faster ways to do it.
right, and that they chose AIDS. So again, using the idea of AIDS as punishment is
Yes.
just like coming through this loud and
That's a good
clear.
point.
And so yeah. And again, this is like, oh god, this is so based on like that satanic panic stuff that happened in the 80s,
Mhm.
but that like actually there's no real evidence of. That's the thing,
no.
when you go back and look at it. Like, he's got these newspaper articles. I'm like, I would love to see that these really existed
Well,
because, you know.
I think there were like exactly like 2 actual crimes that were blamed
Right.
and it went to court on Satanism. One of them was thrown out of court after about like 6 years or something like that. And the other one, the people were in jail until a few years ago because of like satanic dungeons underneath a daycare that they literally dug up the entire daycare and they couldn't find any fucking tunnels, and they were like, "Well, I guess they're magic." And then they convicted them.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy when you go back and listen and learn more about it. And so this just plays off all of that in this, you know? And again, none of this is even based in reality. Like, you could
No.
make a video like this about something else and at least like have it based on real things. Like, I'm just like scratching my head going, what?
Yeah, for example, can I give you some examples of things that happened in the 80s?
Sure.
Yeah. White Christian men like drug black people behind their cars and killed them that way.
Right.
Like, you know, lynchings. They did the same thing to gay people. They did the same thing to whatever, you know. But like, there are people who use religion to commit unspeakable crimes while at this time. And you know who they were? Not Satanists.
Yeah.
They were the fucking Christians.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you look back at like child abuse, which is kind of at the core of the Satanic Panic, which by the way seems to be at the core of QAnon stuff. The whole save the children, all that stuff. Most of the time, people have said when you look at who is abusing kids, it's people in their family and people that they know. It's not random strangers that abduct them. It's actually people that they know. And I think if you look at the thing that just came out from the Southern Baptist Convention, that whole, abuse and kind of report that came out, like, and same thing with the Catholic Church, really, like that stuff is happening in religious circles in some ways more than it is at daycares and all this other shit that they tried to make it about. And I don't know. It's like we don't want to examine what's going on in our own little circles, so we point the finger at this completely bizarre, made up thing.
Yeah, and the Southern Baptist thing, like that goes back. Like I was reading some of the reports there, and that goes back long enough for when we were both in the church, and and just the disgusting, like, we're not a top-down organization. We can't really tell the churches, to keep track of who's molesting kids. But by the way, if you say that Disney isn't gay, we will throw you out of the goddamn Southern Baptist Convention.
Right.
In a heartbeat. Also, if you don't make your tithes. So like, yeah, I mean, it's not just an abuse of power. It's a blatant abuse of power. It's literally protecting the abusers.
I was just thinking, like, this whole video and the Satanic Panic and really QAnon and all that stuff, what it does is it points the finger and says evil looks like this and evil is over there, rather than just thinking of evil as like the absence of good, and that evil can be in all of us, right? Rather than it being something that's like here with us because we're making bad decisions, or use the word sin, whatever you want to use for it. No, it's something way over there and it looks really bad and evil and it's very clear what it is.
Right.
That's not the real world.
Right. And I was having a conversation in the Knowledge Fight Reddit the other day, and we got to talking about authoritarianism, and I think the summation I had of authoritarianism there really shines a light on what we're seeing here and what we see in the Satanic Panic, which is that for authoritarians, and especially when we get this Christo authoritarianism, they believe that they're on the side of an all-powerful God, and therefore they're on the side of good because of power, right? Power equals good. And because of that, what God does, always good. What they do, almost always good. Yeah, maybe every once in a while they'll mess up and do a bad thing, but they shouldn't be punished for it or held accountable for it because, they're really good because they're on the side of all-powerful God. So there shouldn't be consequences. Yeah, sure, they mess up every once in a while, but they're good at heart, But then there's the people who reject the power of the Almighty God. Those are the bad people. Sure, they might do good things even most of the time, but they don't deserve credit for it because they're on the bad side. It's just authoritarianism.
Yeah, it really is, which explains why people flock to Trump and so many other things, And
it's simple. It's easy. It takes no thought. Yeah. You don't have to struggle with any morality. You don't have to struggle with how your actions affect other people. You don't have to struggle about a bigger world beyond your nose. All you have to do is say, power good, not evil, other people evil, done.
You
just slobber on yourself.
And I think this video again really highlights it's so black and white, even the fact that when he opened, decided to go to take the letter back, it suddenly switches and it's nighttime. It's literally black and white.
Not just nighttime, but daytime in a sunny, beautiful green grass and green shrubs suburbia. And now all of a sudden, you're right. It's black. It's dark. Everything's dead.
Yeah, so evil or sin or however you want to call it is very clearly bad and that they're very clearly good. And again, the real world is not that simple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Should we keep moving on?
Yeah, let's do it. I can't wait to see what happens.
All right, in this clip, we're gonna go from 3:19 to 4 minutes exactly.
By his aunt. On and on, page after page, delightfully he flaunted each incident for an hour without a breath. He said, "Do you realize through my understanding of the dark regions that I can make you rich or even curse someone to death?" I sat literally intimidated by his immensity and demon power, while his face shone with a satanic arrogant bliss. Then placing his hands on the arms of my chair and leaning into my face, he said, "What can your God do to compete with this?"
Okay. So the main thing that happened in that clip is that the guy went through all the things that, or I guess he went through the things earlier. On this time, it's just, do you realize that through my understanding of the dark regions that I can make you rich or even curse someone to death? Not you, but someone. And when he says that someone, by the way, there's a couple things that happen there. When he says I can curse someone, he throws the devil horn symbol at Carman.
Rock on, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then he says, and then when there's kind of thunder in there when Carman is when he says that he can curse someone to death, there's a thunder and like a skull appears where Carman's face and head is.
Oh right, yeah.
Ooh. Also, it says that he went on for an hour. Do you really think that Carman sat there for an hour and listened to this guy? I mean, come on.
Carman can't go like 10 seconds without talking, so
yeah. He has to be in charge of everything that he does.
I just like watching this going like none of this, like, this is not even based on like a fraction of reality. Like, what are they like? No, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And you know what's one thing that did occur to me though, and this is maybe on like a tangent. So when I saw this, I was in like Southern Baptist, and they believed, what did they call it? I cannot remember the term for it, but basically it was like, I think they call it like cessation of like spiritual gifts. So basically like they believed that like all the stuff in the New Testament had kind of ended, that God speaks through the Bible now, the tongues, prophecy, healing, all that stuff doesn't happen anymore. But it was weird just thinking about this now, because at the same time, they would have definitely been into this and been like, the devil is real, he can do stuff. So in the way, it's like, so the devil can do more things in the world than God can. Now, later, I got into more of the charismatic Pentecostal stuff, and that's got its own baggage and stuff. But at least, like, if you're going to believe in God and you're going to believe he can do this stuff, or at least did that stuff back then, and you're going to believe the devil can do it, at least believe God can too. Again, tangent, but I just was thinking back to the time period and how funny it was that we gave, in some ways we gave this idea of the devil way more power than it needed to have, you know?
Yeah. What you're forgetting there, Jay, is the very important tactic that if God doesn't do things anymore, then that's why we don't see it happening around us.
Oh, you're right. It. That's why. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because if you say that God can regrow someone's leg, well, I think we're all waiting for that still.
Mm-hmm. You just don't have enough faith, Clifton.
It's true. So I want to point out a visual that happens here is that it keeps cutting back and forth to this. It's not a crow. Maybe it's a raven. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got like something in a cage. A raven or crow.
Yeah. All right. So we should mention that when it ends, there's a bright like window or something. Even though it's dark outside, there's a bright window behind Carman and Isaac Horowitz and the camera, so that we're seeing them kind of in silhouette, and that's actually going to get played up a lot in this next little bit. So we're going from 4 minutes to 4 minutes and 40 seconds on this clip.
I knew then how Moses felt when his rod turned to a serpent, and the 3 Egyptian magicians did the same. It's as if you're sitting there in that stunned moment where your faith gets violated, and all you feel is weak, powerless, and lame. I desperately and deeply prayed, saying, Jesus, give me wisdom. I don't want to put you through some foolish test. Then a shaft of light shot through my soul, igniting my eyes with fire. God stood me up, and I threw the book back in his chest.
There's not a lot to talk about here because it was pretty boring, actually. But we did end on a black cat walking around the house.
Right.
There's also a point when Isaac Horowitz went back, it went over to the Raven and for a moment and around his cage and looked very menacingly and laughing at Carman while he was praying. I like the audacity of Carman, though. I knew then how Moses felt.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You and Moses, man.
Yeah.
You're just alike. But yeah, it's okay. This line is worth reading. Sitting there in that stunned moment while your faith gets violated, and all you feel is weak, powerless, and lame. I don't know. I feel like Carman shouldn't get to say that.
Yeah, I listen again as I saw this. I'm just thinking it's so much, man, like us versus them, and there's this idea of like I can call on God for superpowers. Like it kind of seems like that, right? Like he's like he bends down, he prays, and then suddenly a shaft of light enters the room, and it's like, and he just like suddenly like.
Yeah, the Jesus give me wisdom. Oh, by the way, when he says I don't want to put you through some foolish test, I don't know where Carman is from, but I'm gonna say Jersey.
Right.
I'm gonna say New Jersey based on that little line right there.
Oh, and he's definitely putting him through a foolish test. Just this whole thing.
Yes,
but
right.
Anyway,
yeah. But why do you think he doesn't want to put God through a foolish test? I mean, here he is in a situation. This wouldn't be a test. This would just be like what's his name? Who's the prophet who did the whole battle with the other priests where they lit the sacrifice on fire?
Oh, I know what you mean. I cannot remember.
Is that Isaac?
No.
Or Elijah?
Elijah sounds right.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, was that a silly little test? I mean, like, your God's all powerful. Like, just man up and say you need help here. I don't understand what's wrong there. Anyways.
Just before we go, this is very much us against them. I'm on the right team. I've got the right stuff. Like, man, it is soaked into this. Like, the more I watch this, the more I'm like, shit, Carman is actually to blame for a lot of the stuff we're in now. Not that others were innocent too, but good God, he's like way in it. Whew.
Wait until what we're about to hear.
Oh, great. Here we go.
So in this clip, we're going to go from 4 minutes and 40 seconds to 5 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay.
I said, Isaac, I'll not compare God's miracles versus Satan's. The issue's not God's kingdom and Satan's lair. The real comparison is the condition of your soul and the condition of mine. And you puppet of the devil, that I will compare. I said, my friend, one day they're coming for you. The soft associates in your incantations. The friendly demons you think you now control. The time will come when you'll be lying in bed, wheezing like a dying animal, when those spirits lay claim to the rights they own to your soul.
Okay, there's a lot of visuals in this one. Let me go back and let's watch it without the sound on so we can comment on the visuals as we see them.
Flashes back to the house, by the way, outside. Yeah.
And Carman is pointing at, like my grandmother points at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Isaac looks
panicked the whole time and kind of breathing heavy and looks big. He's got his eyes are really big, which is weird because all Carman is basically saying is like, oh, by the way, I can't do any of the stuff you talked about, but when I die, I'm going to heaven. It's basically what he's saying, which to me, I'd be like, if I was just recounting an hour's worth of badass things I did, I wouldn't be that worried by what he's saying.
Yeah. Which, not to be an asshole here, but you're right. He's basically saying, well, I can't do any of that. I can't comment on all that stuff you've done in this world. But when I die, I can't. No one will know or not because I'll be dead, and we don't know what happens after death. But when I die, you'll see. You'll see.
Right, but for some reason that really hits Isaac hard, and he looks scared.
But Carman looks very satisfied with himself also here. And by the way, this is now when we get the zoom in silhouette, which actually is pretty well shot.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to the raven that's jumping around or whatever kind of bird it is. Oh. Can you explain this, Jay?
So when he talks about you have the lyrics in front of you, but he says something about, later in life when you're lying in your bed, wheezing
like a dying animal.
Right. And they actually show a clip of this guy aged with like white hair, but it's the same actor playing Isaac lying in a bed, wheezing and coughing.
That's definitely not his body, by the way. He's definitely like under the bed with his head sticking out and his arms sticking out.
You think
but that's
so?
not. That looks like this child. That's like a child's body.
Small.
Look at that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just a small man.
Is he supposed to be like shriveled and old here? Like I don't know. It's very cheesy.
Yeah.
If that is that guy's body, I'm sorry for your body, man.
Anyway, yeah. So it's basically like proving Carman right or whatever. Yeah.
All right. In this clip, we're going to go from 5:18 to 5:36.
To your soul, then the room will grow dark, and the most hideous evil faces you've ever seen will come flaming out of the floor with a yell. The vile informants that promised reincarnation will claw your spirit and victoriously drag your soul to hell.
Wow.
Yeah, there's some pricey special effects in here.
How do you explain what we just saw, Clifton?
Okay. So while we're on, Isaac in bed, and Carman says that you'll see the most hideous evil faces you've ever seen will come flaming out of the door with a yell. They don't come flaming out of the door, but they do just suddenly appear. It's basically like
They looks like they rise up out of hell because there's some flames for a second on the floor.
It's true, yeah. There's some flames. It's somewhere between like a Ghostbusters, like the 1980s Ghostbusters ghost and like a demon from what was that kid show with the horror stories when we were a kid?
Are You Afraid of the Dark or something, or no?
Not Are You Afraid of the Dark. The Goosebumps.
Okay, yeah, it's about that level.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between there. It's definitely made of clay or something like that, but blown up, and they have like a glow around it, and it basically just comes up. It doesn't move, I don't think, until it does. The hand, like when we cut back to Isaac's face, the hand, like this creepy hand, kind of reaches. Oh, I don't know how to explain that. They just look like ghosts floating around.
Yeah, it's very much
with
like
flame eyes.
They're green tinted with almost the same color as like, is it Slimer on Ghostbusters?
Yeah,
is that his name?
Exactly.
Very much like that, but a little more menacing than him. Not much, but like a little bit more. They've got claws. They've got longer arms. It is not that scary.
Yeah. And then the bed opens up, I guess, and Isaac gets sucked down to hell.
Which, to be fair, that effect was kind of cool. I'll give it that. The going to hell from the bed thing, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that worked. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we want to talk about
here? Oh, man.
Yeah.
No.
As we ended on the last one and we start the second one, that's the next one, there's like flames coming out of the bed. So here we're going to go from 5:36 to 5:58.
To hell. Then I grabbed the book and says, in that moment, which mantra, which incantation are you going to chant to tell them to leave you alone? I said, my friend, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt what I would say. I am bought with the blood of Jesus. Let me go.
Okay, a lot of visuals again. So we go back to Carman, and he grabs the book from Isaac, and then it cuts back to Isaac, and he's just sitting there very calmly at this point, I guess.
He look in his eyes, though. He looks intimidated, maybe.
Yeah, he looks intimidated. Now, listen to this. I want to listen to this actually again, because the lyrics say, "Then I grabbed the book and I said in that moment," which mantra? But I swear he says, "and I says."
And says in that moment. And says in that moment.
And says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think Carman
New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, wait, hang on. I'm looking him up. Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh. Really?
Born January 19, 1956, Trenton, New Jersey.
All right.
Good job, Clifton.
He's not that old.
He just died recently, too.
I know.
Yeah,
he wasn't that old. Okay. So Carman's preaching, throws book back at him. The bird is very confused, and that now, man, Carman's preaching up a storm here.
Yeah.
Isaac looks very concerned, and there's a flash of lightning.
And we don't see the bird, but all the feathers hit the bottom of the cage. Like all these black feathers fall in the bottom of the cage.
All right. Anything else for this one?
No.
Okay. Let's continue on. So this time we're going from 5:58 to 6:21.
I said, Isaac, when you tossed that book in my lap, you gloated with a sinister victory. You rejoiced when you saw your name in black and white. Now I rejoice, but not that your council of demons are subject to Jesus, but that my name is written in the Lamb's book of life.
There's not much to say there. You got anything to say about that one?
Well, if you noticed in the window outside, the sun is coming up at this point. It's getting less dark. The sun's coming up.
So literally we went from like getting home from work,
right,
late afternoon, early evening, to like thunderclaps at night, and we're in front of his house. And I guess Carman, like in that 1 hour, he spent all night at this guy's house. Like,
yep.
Of all the magic that's happened so far, the time lapse is the greatest.
Right.
So we're going from 6:21 to 6:45, the end of the song with this one.
Then Isaac jumped up from his chair and screamed, "You must leave now!" I says, "I will, but one last obligation. Next time, think twice before you rumble with a man of God. And by the way, thanks for your witch's invitation."
Wow. Okay. There's a lot there at the end.
Of course, the first thing that happens is that immediately upon being given those least bit of pushback, Isaac can't handle it. Because only Christians can handle having their faith attacked, right?
Right.
So, and Isaac's like, "You got to get out of here now."
Right, he jumps up from the chair, points at him, and says, "Get out of here," basically.
Yeah. And then Carman says, "I will, but one last obligation. Next time, think twice before you rumble with a man of God." And he says that while he's opening the door, and as you mentioned, the sun is coming up. Very good. And the light from the sun shines into Isaac's eyes, and he's very vampire-like, averse to the light here. He doesn't turn into smoke or anything, though.
Which is weird, because the clock behind him looks like it's showing like 2:05 or something.
Oh, yeah, it is the 2:05, yeah.
So, yeah, who knows?
It could be like 1:10, but it's either 2:05 or 1:10. I can't tell which hand is bigger. Yeah.
It's definitely not. Neither
definitely
one
not sun coming up.
Yeah, neither one of those makes sense. But anyway.
So this is when my favorite thing in the entire video happens.
Okay.
Which is when he says, "And by the way, thanks for your and the music goes tunk tunk, and Carman with his shoulders like moves his shoulders forward with the tunk tunk. "By the way, thanks for your tunk tunk witch's invitation." Let's watch it again.
One last obligation. Next time, think twice before you rumble.
Wait for it.
Man of God.
Turns around. There it is. And
witch's invitation.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty funny watching it without sound.
And he slams the door, and of course, the stained glass
Pentagram.
pentagram falls off the wall and breaks. And Isaac drops his book.
So
he's been destroyed.
I got a better view of that wall you were talking about that I thought was an inverted cross, but I think you're right. It's runes. It almost just looks like brands or something there. And so a couple of thoughts with that. So when I first saw this as a kid and seeing the pentagram and seeing the other stuff, I was like, oh my gosh. Like it felt really like risque or something because it was just like,
really?
What? This is a Christian video with that stuff in it?
We're actually going to let them say their part? Like we're going to show a real
right,
Satanist?
right. Yeah, exactly. It felt very risky. But now watching it now, I'm like, okay, first of all, the pentagram, if you really wanted to make it badass and cool, it would have been like drawn on the wall in blood or something, right? And I don't think they actually have an inverted cross anywhere in this because I think they're too afraid to do it. So they just got that weird ass looking stuff on the wall. So
like some it's like Johnny the stagehand was like, should we do an inverted cross? And everyone's like, out.
Yep.
You're fired. You're not. Don't come back.
Yep.
Not even for your paycheck. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I thought was pretty boundary pushing as a kid doesn't seem that way now.
Pretty bland, and it, as I said, it is funny. It's funny to watch, but it's also really boring. I mean, it's so cliche, it's boring.
So, okay, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm thinking more about it as it goes. This actually doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know there's multiple things we can say about it, but the actual, like, Carman's storyline, because he's basically saying, look, this guy comes, brings to his house, and for an hour straight tells him about all this badass stuff he's done, like healing people, killing people, all this. And all Carman has to say is like, well, I don't know about any about that, but when you die, you'll go to hell and I'm going to heaven, which again, as you said, Clifton, who's going to know, right? They're all dead. And yet somehow Isaac is like scared by this and like put in his place.
The fuck out. Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. Any rational person would be like, no, Isaac's the way cooler guy in this. Like,
and there's no one even acknowledges that the bird just disappeared, but his feathers stayed.
Right. Good point.
Was it raptured?
I don't know.
So, Jay, if you were introduced to this video today, what would your takeaway be?
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's just like, how is it not a parody? That's the thing that it was like serious, right? Like if I watched today, I'd be like, this is a joke, right? Mm-hmm. This is a joke. You know, this is a joke. And it's not. Like, I don't know. And again, I just keep thinking about like the whole us versus them and the world is evil. And this is like clear black and white evil, right? We're good. God is on our side. This guy is evil. I mean, look, he's a Satanist. He's got demons, blah, 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 blah.
There's a pentagram right there. That's a clip that's like holding his robe together.
Right. This is not setting things up well for the future, as we now know, you know, 30 years later. It's just, yeah. It's scary stuff, man, and I don't think it hit me, you know, obviously back then I had no concept of this, but now it's like, oh, huh. I mean, I think that's something that I know I've told people as I've been doing the show and then just talking about other things in my life is I think I thought a lot of this stuff like growing up was, you know, kind of like looking back on this, it's kind of funny now, ha ha ha, but it's kind of benign, you know, not a big deal, but honestly, this will fuck you up over time because this just really affects your worldview. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. First off, you know, talking about like the target audience of this, which is definitely like late elementary school, early junior high, right?
Right.
And I mean, it's like, in what world do you show this to someone and want them to think God loves everyone? So go out there and preach his word to all of them because, you know, they're not like, they're just people that God loves.
Good point. There's none of this. Like, by the way, that's such a good point. He's never like, God loves you.
Right.
Isaac Horowitz. There's none of that. There's no preaching the gospel in this. You're right. Jesus, this is none of that. This is like vindictive whatever.
Also, the Facebook tag group today and things that didn't happen, this feels like this happened, like the first third of this happened, and when Carman got home he was like, yeah, you know what, I should have said this and I should have said that, and like it very much feels like a blog that's like, here's my real I didn't have it in the time, but here's my real response, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about what you just said. Like it's not at all like Jesus loves you message. It's I'm on the right team and you're on the wrong team.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that was a lot of the message going out at the time.
Jay, you got an award for this?
Yeah, we're gonna give this one the best shoulder move, because at the end of the song when he goes dun, 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 yep,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Dun, dun. Cool. All right, Jay, what are we doing on the next episode?
Clifton, we're taking a deep dive into your past and doing Reality Check's 1997 self-titled debut album, Reality Check.
Oh, I gotta say, I remember listening to this, but I don't remember it at all. So
yeah,
this is gonna be a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm excited.
I'm not. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us.
If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us, and send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
The music in this episode is the work of Carman and is used with apologies, not permission. You can probably still buy it.
Somewhere.
Amazon, maybe. I don't know.
Yep.
Not Bandcamp, I'll tell you that much. It is on Spotify.
There we go.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.